When you start submitting your music to companies in the licensing business, it's important to have several different versions of your tracks ready to go in order to meet the potential needs of those you're working with. During this video, I'm going to cover the different versions of your tracks you should have on hand as you start pitching your music. Not all of the versions of your tracks will be needed for all of the companies you work with. This will vary depending on the company, but it's important to be prepared to meet a variety of different scenarios. The two main versions you'll need of each track you pitch for vocal music is the original version and an instrumental version. When I say instrumental version, I'm referring to a version of the original song with the vocal removed. That's it. You may run into situations where you're requested to supply an instrumental version of a song with an alternate instrument playing the melody. But this is not something you need to do by default, unless, of course, you want to. For general purposes, a vocal version and a second version without vocals will suffice. It's important to have both because sometimes supervisors will like the overall feel of a track, but will want to use it simply as background music without the vocal interfering with the dialogue taking place in the scene. So make sure to always have both versions. This is something many companies ask for up front. A third version, and this isn't absolutely mandatory, but something you can also do if you have time, is to make a mix with the vocal a little lower in the mix than the original. This is something my publisher always requests when I sign new songs to her company. It's not something all publishers or supervisors request, but it does occasionally come up. Sometimes supervisors like the track but prefer to have the vocal a little lower in the mix so it doesn't overshadow what's happening in the scene that it's being used in. If you're pitching music to production or stock music libraries or places that specialize in instrumental music, you will sometimes be asked for 30 and 60-second versions as well. This is much more common in the world of production or stock music, where music is used more as background music to the scene that's taking place. If you plan on pursuing this niche of the licensing business, then it's probably a good idea to have these versions on hand as well. But if you're an artist who is primarily pitching full-length songs with vocals, I wouldn't worry about doing this unless someone specifically requests that you do. In terms of file formats, I recommend that you have 3 versions of each of your tracks. They are, number 1, a low-resolution MP3, number 2, a high-resolution MP3, number 3, a high-resolution file, either a WAV or AIFF. When you're submitting your tracks, you'll need to adhere to the submission method of whomever you're pitching music to. Some companies prefer that you email or upload a low or high-resolution MP3 to start with. Then, if they like what they hear initially, they'll ask you to send them higher-resolution files. Ultimately, for actual licensing purposes, you'll need a high-resolution file like a WAV or AIFF. This is the version that will be used if and when your music is actually licensed. The bottom line when it comes to preparing your tracks is to be prepared to meet as many possible scenarios that arise as possible. Sometimes music is needed on a very short notice, depending on the project. So the more prepared you are in advance, the more prepared you'll be for the different projects and situations you encounter. If you make the job of supervisors and publishers you work with easy and painless, they'll want to work with you again and again.